Hi, Paulina. It's good to see you again. Francis and I are happy to have our conversation. I have just a simple question. I understand you were born in Moscow and you started acting there. Is that right?
Yes, yes. I entered Moscow University, and Moscow University had a wonderful theater, like a Yale Drama School, actually similar situation.
Oh.
That was a part of university. And I still remember I auditioned for it, if it's curious. I was the theater was such a complete my life since since at 4 that I decided that that's what I want to do. Yes. Well, at 4 it was also a bit of ballerina, but not much, and an actress and puppeteer. Or puppets were divinity. Yes, and a clown. Then at 5, clown. We had a great clown. There is kind of not as genius as Charlie Chaplin, but quite a genius called Pencil, Karandash, and also was small. And, that's the way my parents could control me. If I behaved, then they took me to see him. But talking condition, tiny stories, I came, and you have the queue, half a block, waiting to audition. And I stood there. When I couldn't enter, I was so nervous. I let everybody pass. And it finally got dark. Everybody passed, and I'm staying by that door alone. Nobody left. It's over. And I'm just standing crying. I cannot enter. I have actually stage fright, but I couldn't enter that door. And the head of that studio was leaving. And he comes out, going to close the door, and he sees a girl standing there just crying. And he looks at me and he said, I love him. I still visit him in Moscow. And he said, what's the matter, girl? I cannot even speak. I said, I want to. Beautiful person, beautiful actor. He looked at me and he said, okay, come in. And I auditioned just for him. Tears went and this. And he said, okay, no reason to cry, you're in. I was like, 5 minutes audition. He looked at me, that's great, you're in.
Do you remember the piece? What did you audition with? Shakespeare? You auditioned for him with Shakespeare? Do you remember your audition?
What I auditioned for him?
Yeah.
No, not Shakespeare, but Russian classic. You have to have Basnia. It's like La Fontaine, those tiny animals poems, some comedy, and a classic was from Pushkin, big dramatic poem, which I worked for a whole year. I trained myself on all of that. Wow. But I could, of course, I had come. I don't remember. I think I did something of Hamlet in Russian, of course, because I memorized whole Hamlet play and worked on Hamlet since I was 15 at home. My dog suffered,
Your dog suffered.
But it was, yes, my feminism started because I was very upset by women cannot allowed to perform Hamlet.
Yeah.
And soccer, and I played soccer. 2 things were on my feminist side. Okay, enough jokes.
How long were you at the conservatory? At the Moscow?
Because I started working in the shows there, so it took many, many years, almost until I left Russia, because I realized that what I wanted as I performed, I couldn't help but in my head redirect all that directors were doing. And I already directed in school. I always directed actually all kids shows. So it became very clear to me that what I was obsessed with is directing. Also, all the directors, they loved me as an actress. And Russian stories, little stories before anything. So I was working as on a big show to Joseph Freichengaus. He's just retired. He, during the Glasnost, opened his own big successful theater in Moscow. So he was directing a show. I started as an actor. Then I said, can I work as your manager, stage manager, assistant, because that's what I want. He said, fine. Then he looked at me and he said, what's wrong with you, Polina? I said, I want to be a director. And he's alive, he must hear what I'm saying. Good to him, because he looked at me and he said, well, there's two problems about it with you. And I said, okay. And I, now I'm like this, but I was a shy mouse. Because I was worshiping so much. I was in awe. For me, being considered as being in a church, it's entering, the temple. And so I said, so what? He said, well, number one, you're very normal. In Russia, to be a great artist or a director, you need to be crazy. You need to be different. You need to be from another world. If you're normal, they're not going to follow you. So he said, you're very normal. And in America, they tell me that I'm out of box and too crazy. But in Russia, he said, you're very normal. And I said, it's true. Very sad. And then he said, the second problem, he said, you are a girl. You're a woman. You cannot direct like a man. And then I said, but I don't want to direct like men. I want to direct as a woman. So then the rebel came. But that's Russia. At that time, they were practically women, and none of them was considered a woman. Then that's the joke about Maria Knebel, who is making waves now, her book. It's a nasty joke, Russian. I don't want to go into it. They were not believing that was a male profession.
So is that why you left Moscow and came to the US so you could direct?
No, I wouldn't leave that. I would fight. No, not directed. It wasn't the reason why I came to America. I was also obsessed with poetry and was writing a lot of poetry, probably bad, but that doesn't matter. Talking normal or not, I'm always telling jokes. I was on Zoom with my brother in Moscow. He's 87. And I asked him if he remembers what happened when I became strange and crazy. Because I said, in America, they think I'm, crazy. And he said, yes, I remember, Polina. He also started as an actor. Now he's art historian. So he said, I remember, and his wife, she's a mathematician, looks at him like, and he says, well, that was when you were 5 and you started to compose poetry. And then everything was poetry and you were speaking in a long verses poetry. And I asked you, Polina, and I said, Polina, what are you thinking? I said, poems. And he said, Polina, but how do you know that it's poems? I did not how to read it, nothing, And I said, because I know. He said, that's the moment. And that whole thing goes through my directing and teaching. And I think that's what actually, as we talk about that, because it's that deep inborn feeling, because I know when I was 5, I actually said that I really believe in creative work. That knowing is not information you memorize.
Yes.
It's not text analysis, it's not objectives and technique. It's a deep feeling in your whole being, in your body, in your cells. And my brother said it was so clear. and so mature with us, and so confident that he would never forget it. So this is interesting clue as we talk about acting, technique, creative energy. For me, everything makes dots that create the completion. Where does it start? I think we're born with knowledge, pretty much complete knowledge.
Yes.
We're born pretty much with what we need each. And how as we develop, how it gets compartmentalized. And as Grotowski said, Grotowski wasn't teaching acting. He said the main thing, he was just taking out the blocks that obscure, that prevented. And it's exactly that.
It's what you do.
And interestingly enough, as I remember from the first moment in the first grade, they put me on a stage. And everything that was unfolding, whatever it is that God gave, universe endowed me with, and everything I've been continually pulling out and examining was already there. There was really a complete knowledge, and I believe it's in everybody, just like any other child. Just as I watch my 3-year-old son and I heard the music inside of him, and I put him to play violin, and he's a musician. And telling about this, because this is what I think is very important and missing in training of the actor. I had this incredible doctor, sacrocranial. They put the hands, yes. And my son had knee problem. So all he knew that Alex was my son. Alex was 20-something. And Alex came, put him on work on him. And after next time I saw him, he told me, okay, so he worked on your son. And he said, I heard music inside in his body. He's genius, can say, and he puts hands on the body. And then when my first time came, he also knew nothing about me. He put his hands on me and he said, Polina, you're doing work very similar to mine. He actually wanted to write articles together. So this is very important subject. How we born with all that information and how we then get disconnected from it.
Interestingly, Francis and I were talking about the same thing last night. And I don't know if you want to add to that before we at this point.
Doing it to me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sure. And then we'll move to the
next subject.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting because Louis and I were talking about exactly this yesterday, as she just said, that there is really honestly nothing to learn for those complex situations where we call in our creativity, but there are things to unlearn, because the way we've been taught at school to be able to reason, to make sense of situation, to analyze, is very powerful and wonderful. It did give birth to a very powerful language called science. But as an actor, or when we're facing a complex situation, any complex situation in life, human relationships, and on, our ability to engage with that complexity is actually a natural process. And I always give the example of when we drive, we're in a very complex situations. There's a lot of information that can come to us. And of course, there are rules, traffic lights, stop sign, and we need to observe them. But if you have a car in your mirror coming behind you and that cannot brake, what do? You get out of the way, regardless of the traffic light, So there is the rule and there is the interpretation of the rule. And I think in theater, this is exactly this. Anything can happen at any given moment on stage, within us and outside of us. And of course, there's a script and a text and blockings and everything, but the job of the actor is to be 100% available to what's unexpected. And when that presence, quality of presence is there, this is where we get fascinated as an audience, you know. So to summarize, the interesting part is that it's in us. It's in us. That ability is in us, you know, and it's not to be learned. It's about unlearning what's in the way of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very observant, and I love we are on the same voice talking about a car. Yes, there are rules, but there is something. It's like if you talk about mind, and I always talk about there's not one mind, but there are kind of different types of mind in us. And there is pragmatic mind that I call conditioned mind.
Yeah.
From the childhood to the school, those things. And it's a very important mind.
Sure.
We cannot survive. Society will collapse without it. But the point is, what's interesting, Francis, that what we taught is not bad by itself. It's just how everything needs to have its proper function and not to block the other things. And the example of the car, I was, so you wait the right light to cross the street. Wait at the right light to cross the street. But apparently there was somebody driving crazy, I don't know, drunk or what. And actually it was a big truck moving kind of huge speed. And I was relaxed crossing. Before my rational mind responded, my other mind, I moved back. And I would be killed if I just followed my conditioned mind, the rules. It's right,
Exactly.
I go.
Exactly.
So there's so many different systems cooperating and working within us. And what is important, I think, to harmonize that system. That's what I think trying to do next is to harmonize system, not to break them apart, not to make one to be a general. But, you know, mind, the real big mind is a conductor, receiving all that information, every instrument coming, and need to harmonize. And that is where lately, that's what I'm thinking a lot about now in structuring my classes, how to help people to utilize and harmonize and make it work together. So it's a beautiful symphony.
But you know, the funny part is that, oh, sorry.
Yes, Lou.
No, if you don't mind if we stop at that point and then we start talking about how we use music in class.